Mid-century American camping trips were built on a promise of total security. Families packed into station wagons to reclaim a patch of nature that felt curated, predictable, and, above all, safe. In June of 1969, the Martin family arrived at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park for a Father's Day weekend. They settled into the Spence Field area, a high-altitude meadow popular for its clear views and established trails. To pass the time, 7-year-old Dennis Martin and a group of other children started a casual game of hide-and-seek. They stayed within sight of the adults, using the nearby tree line as their boundaries. Dennis found his spot. He stepped behind a cluster of bushes to wait for his turn to be found. Minutes later, the game concluded. The other children walked back into the clearing, laughing and calling out to one another. Dennis did not emerge. His father and the other campers didn't panic immediately. They assumed a 7-year-old was simply committed to the game, waiting for a better moment to jump out and surprise them. When a person vanishes from a crowded, familiar environment, it violates our basic understanding of cause and effect. The absence isn't explained by an obvious accident or a clear path of travel. It is a sudden, silent break in the logic of the day. As the sun began to set, the casual family search transformed into an official emergency. Within hours, park rangers and local authorities arrived to coordinate a formal response. Eventually, hundreds of volunteers arrived. They formed human chains, moving shoulder to shoulder through the dense mountain laurel and rhododendron thickets, attempting to leave no square foot of the forest floor unexamined. Professional tracking dogs were brought in to pick up a scent. These animals were trained to find traces of human presence that the human eye would naturally miss in the undergrowth. Helicopters circled the ridges from above, but the sprawling, mountainous terrain of the Smokies presented a unique, impenetrable wall. The canopy is so dense that from the air, the forest floor is effectively invisible, even in broad daylight. This was a maximum capacity search effort, utilizing specialized animals and air support. Yet, after days of scouring the grid, the search teams reported a total lack of physical evidence. In investigation, the absence of expected clues is often more descriptive than the clues themselves. This is a scenario defined by what wasn't found in an environment that should have retained something. If a child moves through soft forest soil, they leave weight impressions, yet the search radius yielded no verifiable footprints. The Smokies are also filled with jagged brush and thorns, which snag fabric. However, searchers found no torn fibers and no dropped personal effects. No reports of a struggle. No broken branches indicating a fall. No signs of an animal attack. The woods were completely quiet. The only data point that broke this pattern of nothingness came from a witness several miles away. They later reported seeing an unidentified man deep in the forest, carrying a heavy burden over his shoulder. This report stands alone. Investigators are left with an environment that produced zero physical traces of a child's movement, set against a single unverified account of a stranger in the deep woods. The lead regarding the unidentified man led nowhere. Despite the scale of the search and the subsequent investigations, Dennis Martin was never found. In the weeks following the disappearance, local news coverage reached a fever pitch. Park attendants in the Spence Field area saw a marked shift as parents who once allowed their children to roam freely began keeping them within arm's reach of the campsite. Modern park rangers often describe the Martin case as a reminder of the actual, unmanaged nature of the American wilderness. While the Smokies are defined by dense forests, the broader American wilderness, from the cliffs of Yosemite to the ridges of the Appalachians, is a geographical labyrinth. These are spaces where the map does not always capture the true complexity of the ground. National parks like the Smokies and Yosemite are now recognized as prominent locations for these specific types of unresolved cases, where people vanish without leaving a traditional trail of evidence. When immense natural scale, difficult topography, and dense foliage intersect, they can create a scenario where a human being is essentially erased. The environment provides enough visual and acoustic cover to hide a person's movements entirely. The disappearance of Dennis Martin remains one of the most studied cases in the history of the National Park Service. It serves as a definitive example of how the wilderness remains indifferent to our presence, keeping its secrets despite our best efforts to uncover them.